It's gone, nowhere to be found. My bag is missing, and it had my passport in it. Frantically searching, I was looked down upon by my mother-in-law, Olivia, with a sardonic smile. It's what you deserve. A foolish wife like you has been struck by divine retribution. We're heading back to America first. This is goodbye for... laughter. With that, she burst into loud laughter. I realized then that entrusting my bag to Olivia was a mistake. Her actions plunged me into darkness. I am Madison, 30 years old, married to Mark for 3 years. We don't have kids yet, but we live a happy life in a town close to my in-laws' house. Even after getting married, I worked hard as a working mother, dedicating my energy to both my job and household chores. My father-in-law passed away 5 years ago, and Olivia, living alone, often came to our house to complain about my housekeeping, which became a source of stress for me. Why don't you just give up being a working mother? You're not doing any significant job anyway. You can't work properly, and your housekeeping is mediocre. It's sad for Mark. Supporting Mark properly is what a wife should do. Continuing, she rubbed a finger across our floor. There's so much dust. It's disgusting, she sighed dramatically. As Olivia put it, I'm not great at housework. I admit that, but being accused of dust buildup was unfair. I clean every morning before work and cook with our health in mind, yet Olivia says whatever she likes. Belittling me is her way of stress relief. Honestly, every day was a struggle. Then Olivia suddenly wanted to go on a family trip with us. She invited us and Mark's sister's family too. Sister-in-law Emma, like Mark, is very mild-mannered, and we often visit each other's homes, so I had no issue with her. But the idea of traveling with Olivia made me uneasy. I had frequently discussed Olivia's snide remarks with Mark, so I shared my apprehensions about the trip. Mom wants to go with us. Maybe she wants to create happy memories with you. It's a chance for you to get over your discomfort with Mom and build a more open relationship, Mark optimistically suggested. That's true, it's our first trip with your mom. Maybe we'll make great memories and break down barriers, he said, encouraging me with a kind smile. I decided to enjoy the trip. Olivia made all the plans, including the destination and itinerary, so we just matched our schedules. I wonder where Mom's planning to go. I hope it's not too expensive, I thought. Then Mark casually said, "Oh, she emailed saying we're going to Australia." I sighed at his words. My fears were confirmed. Olivia, unconcerned about our financial situation, chose an extravagant international destination. Well, can't help it. Mom chose it, so let's indulge her this time, Mark reasoned. Understanding his feelings, I somehow managed to fund the trip from our savings. Mark, Emma's husband, and I managed to align our vacations with the trip, and all that was left was to depart. On the day we safely arrived in Australia, the time flew by as we enjoyed the magnificent natural scenery and delicious food. Soon, it was time to return home. It was a wonderful trip. I got so tanned. Even at the airport, Olivia was still excited and playful. Well, it was a truly fantastic experience and enjoyable, I said. I had one lingering regret. What's wrong? You look down, Mark asked, looking into my face. Well, it's not a big deal, but I couldn't get as close to your mom as I'd hoped. We barely talked since we never had a moment alone during the trip. Mark put his hand on my shoulder, saying, "Don't worry too much. We all had fun and enjoyed our time together, and that's what matters." He smiled reassuringly. Thinking maybe I was overthinking it, I followed the others. "It's pretty crowded here. I should use the restroom before we board," Olivia said, then turned to me. "Madison, hold my bags for me, will you? Everyone, leave your bags with her and let's go together." She left me with her heavy luggage and hurried off. I wanted to go to the restroom too. Seeing this, Emma said, "Sorry, Madison. I'll take over when I'm back. Just wait for me." Not too long after they left, Olivia returned alone. "That was quick," I said, surprised. "It was empty now. Where did you put my bags?" She looked around. It's over there." I pointed at her luggage by her feet. "Why is my expensive bag on the floor? I handed it to you so you wouldn't put it down. How could you be so careless?" She picked it up and clutched it protectively, but it was heavy and I was holding everyone else's bags too. Olivia cut me off. "Enough. You really lack consideration. Why don't you just use the restroom too? I'll be kind and watch your bags. Just leave them on the floor. Your cheap bag is fine. There, she said arrogantly. Thank you. I'll be right back, I said. I left my bag on the floor and headed to the restroom, only to find a long line. Emma came out. Madison. What about the bags? She asked worriedly. I let Mark's mom watch them so I could come here, but it's really crowded. This might take a while. Olivia said it was empty, but maybe I just had bad timing. Finally, when I came out, Emma was waiting for me. I didn't want to get lost, so I thought I'd go back with you. I'm directionally challenged, so I was grateful Emma waited. When we got back, Olivia was standing alone, and the men seemed to be elsewhere. Thanks for watching the bags, I said. I looked where I left mine, but that's strange. My bag was nowhere to be seen. I'm sure I left it here. I checked all the bags, but only mine was missing. My bag's gone. But you were here the whole time, right, mother-in-law? I asked Olivia in a panic. Your bag? I don't know. Maybe it was never here. I felt a wave of darkness. No, I definitely left it here, right in front of you. Olivia snorted. I didn't see anything. Don't blame me. I was sure I left it there because Olivia told me to. What should I do? My passport was in the bag. As I panicked, Olivia sneered with a sarcastic smile. Maybe this is payback for how you treated my bag, throwing it on the floor. A terrible wife like you deserves to be punished by not returning to America. I don't have time to deal with you. You're on your own. We're leaving without you. Laughter. Goodbye, she laughed, mocking me. I was filled with anger at Olivia's cold words. This wasn't just my problem. My bag had everyone's passports in it. Without it, none of us could go back to America. Olivia's face froze upon hearing this. What? Why on earth do you have everyone's passports? She grabbed my arm, raising her voice. Emma, who had been listening to our conversation anxiously, explained to Olivia. Since we had a lot of luggage, we were worried about losing the passports, so Mark was managing them. You must have forgotten because you were too excited, Mom, Emma said. Hearing this, Olivia retorted. Was that so? I was busy and forgot. But why were the passports with you and not Mark? That's strange, she accused me. Mark had too much luggage to carry, so I've been keeping them since we left the hotel. Olivia, with veins throbbing on her temple, said, Why didn't you say something so important? I had no idea your bag had everyone's passports. I would have kept an eye on it if I knew. I couldn't believe her words. What do you mean? You took your eyes off my bag earlier. You said you didn't know about it. So was my bag stolen? Emma, looking pale, confronted Olivia. Mom, explain what happened. Was Madison's bag really stolen? Olivia snorted. How would I know if it was stolen? Stolen? It was just gone when I noticed. Olivia stood there, arms crossed unapologetically. I can't believe it. That's so irresponsible. Then Mark and the others returned, noticing our troubled expressions. What's wrong? Any trouble? He asked, concerned. After I explained everything, Mark sighed, looking at Olivia. This is urgent. We need to search for the bag right away. Mark and I exchanged a look of agreement. I definitely left it here. Olivia, you told me to put it there, remember? I pointed to the corner where all our luggage was placed. It took us about 15 minutes to return from the restroom. It must have been taken during that time. Olivia, where are you standing? Olivia, still with her arms crossed, said, I was right here the whole time watching the bags. I wouldn't wander off from everyone's important luggage, but your bag was on the edge out of my sight. I'm only human. I can't be perfect. She turned away. Let's file a theft report and check the surveillance cameras. The thief might still be nearby. We should act fast. As Mark started to approach airport personnel, Olivia grabbed his arm. Wait a minute. Filing a theft report sounds drastic. It's more realistic and quicker to just get the passports reissued. Mark shook off her hand. Either way, we need a theft report from the police to prevent passport misuse. Then we'll proceed with reissuing them back at the embassy. But there's still a chance we could get the bag back, so we need to check the surveillance cameras to see who took it. Agreeing with Mark, Emma said, That's right, brother. We should act quickly. Olivia, getting defensive, said, All of this is her fault. She should take responsibility. Let her run around and catch the person who took her bag. There's no need for police involvement. When she can handle it, she became furious, ranting. Emma retorted, "That's no way to talk. Calling Madison this woman is really upsetting. Mom, it was you who didn't watch the bags properly. Don't shift the blame onto her." Emma spoke up for me, saying what I had wanted to say to Olivia. Mark seemed to feel the same way and put his hand on my shoulder. "Madison won't be searching alone. Mom, why are you so against filing a theft report?" Olivia seemed a bit shaken. "It's not that I've never dealt with the police, so I'm hesitant. I prefer to solve it ourselves if possible." "Fine, I'll help look too," I said. Everyone split up to search. She forcefully tried to steer the conversation toward searching for the thief ourselves. Then, at that moment, "Ah, I found you. I've been looking for you." A young man approached Olivia. "I thought you might be in trouble after leaving this bag. I'm glad I found it. Your trip could have been ruined." He handed over my bag. "Where did you find this bag?" I asked him, surprised. "The lady left it on a table in the lounge over there. I tried calling out to her, but she didn't hear me and disappeared into the crowd. So I've been looking for her." We were stunned by his words. "The lounge? She left it there without giving us a second thought?" The young man handed the bag to Olivia. "Please be careful. You're lucky I found it. Someone else might have taken it." We thanked the young man profusely. In place of a frozen Olivia, turning to Olivia, we asked, "Mom, what's going on? How do you explain the bag being in the lounge?" Mark's voice trembled with anger. "No explanation needed. Mom deliberately left Madison's bag in the lounge, right? And she wasn't watching our luggage either. Everything she said was a lie. It's unbelievable that she would be so cruel to Madison, leaving her bag in a distant lounge. She was trying to avoid camera checks because she knew it would expose her." Emma looked at Olivia with disdain. I quickly checked the contents of the bag. All the passports are here, wallets and mobile phones too, all safe. We were really lucky to have such a kind person find it. Relieved, yet I felt like exploding at Olivia. "How could you do this, Olivia? Why would you do something like this?" Confronting Olivia, she responded without remorse. "Well, she threw my precious bag on the floor. I was just upset. I'm not the bad one here. Who would have thought this dirty bag had everyone's passports? It was just a moment in the lounge. I didn't leave your luggage unattended, so don't get it wrong." Hearing this, Mark raised his voice. "Enough already. What do you think Madison is? I've always known how hard you've been on her since we got married. I kept telling Madison to be patient, hoping your attitude would change, but I was wrong. I failed to empathize with her suffering. I'm sorry, Madison." Mark apologized to me. His sincere words and attitude made me tear up. Mark, resolute, faced Olivia. "Mom, intentionally taking someone else's property is equivalent to theft. Even if you don't realize it, checking the security cameras would prove your guilt." Hearing this, Olivia was shocked. "Wait, Mark, you're not really going to report me to the police, are you? We're family, and Madison is your wife. Even if by marriage there's no crime in a mother taking her daughter's bag." I looked at Mark's face. Mark spoke with a bitter expression. "That's ridiculous, Mom. You should be apologizing to Madison first. Trying to escape the situation without admitting your fault and using family as an excuse is embarrassing. As your son," looking straight into Olivia's eyes, "we won't report you to the police, but we're cutting ties with you. Don't show your face to me and Madison again. We'll take a different flight home." He took my hand. "Wait. Hold on. You can't just decide this all of a sudden. I don't accept this. Please think it over. I'm begging you. I'll apologize. Forgive me." "Mark." Olivia clung to Mark's feet, trying to stop him. "But Mom, this is disgraceful. Stop it." Emma pulled her away. Emma and her husband forcibly took a crying Olivia away, leaving Mark and me alone. "Are you sure about this, Mark? Cutting ties with your mom?" I asked, concerned. "This is for the best. You're the most important person to me. I'm sorry for not protecting you until now," he said, smiling. Gladly, he embraced me. We managed to get on a different flight home, returning to our normal life but without Olivia. Emma also decided to keep her distance from Olivia. We moved far away from the in-laws' house, completely cutting off contact with Olivia. Likely, Olivia is living alone, shunned by Emma too. Half a year after the Australia trip, I found out I was pregnant. But Olivia will never know or meet this child. In this peaceful town without Olivia, we'll walk towards our future. My only wish is for me, Mark, and our baby to live happily.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children. With zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job. Having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.